the well. I was seeking for things that could not satisfy. But then one day I heard my Savior speaking. Draw from my well that never shall run dry. Fill my cup, Lord. I lift it up, Lord. Come and quench this thirsting of my soul. Bread of heaven,
God's been making a way out of no way, if he's been a shelter in the time of the storm, if he's just been good to you this week, why don't you get off your feet, take your wigs off, and give God some praise? Stay right there for a second. I said, bread of heaven, bread of heaven, fill my cup, fill my cup, said fill my cup. I need you to fill my cup. Is there anybody in this place today that's cup has been running over this week? They told me it was going to snow this week, but God sent the rain. They told you your body wasn't going to be healed today, but you're standing here in church so Sunday. Come, fill my cup, fill my cup, fill my cup. Hallelujah, 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 yay, hallelujah, and make me whole. Come on, give God some praise in here, 12 Baptists. Act like God's done something for you this week. Hasn't he made a way out of no way? Hasn't he been exceptional this week? Aren't you standing here today with the blood running warm in your veins, clothes on your back, shelter over your head, and somebody still standing in the land of the living? Is there anybody in this place whose cup is overflowing? Sorry, I know I got to preach this morning, but sometimes you just got to let the Spirit do what the Spirit does. The song says, Lord, I will lift mine eyes to the Can we just worship this morning, church? Knowing that my help is coming from you. Help me say this morning, church. I said, you are the source of my strength. If that's your testimony this morning, sing with me. You are the strength of my life. Total praise to are my strength. Oh, you are the strength of my life. Somebody lift them hands with me. I lift my hands in total praise to you. Grab your neighbor by the hand this morning. God, right now, I want you to move in this place. But right now, I'm going to pray for the person whose hand I'm holding. And so, God, I'm asking that you do something miraculous in their life. Touch them where they're weak, God. Build them up where they're torn down. And God, let them open and avail themselves so that they can give you all the glory, all the honor, and all the praise. Right now, we're claiming victory in this sanctuary. Victory in this sanctuary. Victory in this sanctuary. Power in this sanctuary. Love in this sanctuary. Right now, God, pray for the person I'm holding, that they might see something in you when they leave this place. And so, God, touch your servant. Touch me where I'm weak, God. Build me up where I'm torn down. I'm nothing but a broken vessel. Decrease all of Willie and increase all of you, so that your people may hear a word from on high. And so, God, may the words of all of our mouths and the meditation of all of our hearts, minds, and souls be acceptable in thine sight. Oh Lord, you are my strength. You're the strength of the person's hand I'm holding. And collectively, God, as we hold together as a chain, you're our Redeemer. In the precious name of your Son, Jesus, the risen Christ, we do pray. Amen. If you can grab your Bibles with me this morning, hold them up as our pastor always does each Sunday morning. Say, this is my Bible. And this is my guide to living. This is my Bible. And this is my guide to living. And you can open your Bibles to the gospel according to a brother by the name of John, the 9th chapter, the 1st through the 12th verse. That'll be found on page 1664 in your pew Bibles. That's John, the 9th chapter, and the 1st through the 12th verse. And I'll be reading from the New International Version as well. And if you can stand in reverence of the Word of God. John 9 and 1 through 12 reads, as he went along, he saw a blind man from birth. He said to his disciples, and his disciples asked him, Rabbi, who sinned, this man or his parents, that he was born blind? Neither this man nor his parents sinned, said Jesus, but this happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. This happened so that the works of God might be displayed in him. As long as it is day, we must do the works of him who sent me. Night is coming when no man can work. While I am in the world, I am the light of the world. After saying this, he spit on the ground, made some mud with saliva, and put it on the man's eyes. Go, he told him, wash in the pool of Siloam. And this word meant sent. So the man washed and came home seeing. His neighbors and those who had formerly seen him begging asked, "Isn't this the same man who used to sit and beg?" Some claimed that he was. Others said, "No, he only looks like him." But he himself insisted, "I am the man. I am the man." "How then were your eyes open?" they asked. He replied, "The man they call Jesus made some mud and put it on my eyes, and he told me to go to Siloam and wash. So I went and washed, and then I could see." "Where is this man?" they asked him. The man replied, "I don't know. If I can just preach with you from the topic today, muddy miracles." Muddy miracles. You may be seated. My brothers and sisters, there was one thing that I learned as a young child that was a big no-no, they told me, Reverend Brown. One thing that was the ultimate form of disrespect was that you weren't supposed to spit on anybody. I may be the only one to learn that lesson. Spitting where I come from was fighting actions. When I was younger, they used to play this game at Ralph Johnson Bunch Middle School that I hated so much. They used to call it Wet Willie. Wet Willie, Pastor. And they would take your finger while you're not looking, put it in their mouth, and run by and put it in your ear and say, "You got Wet Willie." It was the most disgusting thing. Kids do the darndest things. Spitting was considered gross, uncouth, inappropriate. Even the gesture today of spitting in a public place on public property is a punishable offense in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. But if any of you all had a mother like mine, my mother would sometimes take her thumb and say, "Boy, come here," put it in her mouth, and wipe the sleep out of our eyes and rub the blemishes off of our face. I might be the only one with a country mama like that. And I couldn't figure out for the life of me why my mama would put her finger in her mouth to clean me. But isn't that how it is on this Christian journey, my brothers and sisters? Well, God uses the hands that he has and sometimes puts some spiritual saliva on them to move into our lives and touch us on the faces so that he can clear it up a little bit. Rub some dirt off our faces, get some sleep out of our eyes so that we can see his face clearly. And I don't know who I'm preaching to on this Sunday morning, but I'm a living testimony that when God put his hands on my face and he rubbed some of that stuff off of my eyes, I was a testimony that I was a muddy miracle. And that's what we see here in this 9th chapter of John, where the Johannine gospel, Jesus gets down and dirty in order to deliver. Now, the story may seem familiar to my Bible readers because this form of the story has popped up. This type of miracle has popped up in every single gospel in some way or another. And it's the story of Jesus healing a blind man or some blind people. But because of the congruence, we see some of the textual crossovers, Reverend Brown, that are highlighted, some of the similarities, such as this man being a beggar, Pastor, this man being a beggar on the side of the road. Similarities such as Jesus using spit and also using the laying of his hands. However, despite the continuity in this narrative and across the Gospels, I suggest that there's something interesting that's happening today, church. From John's perspective, that's being told in this text. Because Jesus uses mud to manifest his miracle. The story goes as follows, church, that Jesus was walking with his partner's disciples. As they were walking, Jesus saw a blind man who had been blind from the day he came into this world. And I think I can pause right there and preach for a moment because we serve a Savior that's perceptive enough to see us even when we can't see him. I'll say it again. We've got a Savior who can see well enough that when he's walking by, he will see us even when we don't see him. And I believe that's encouraging news for somebody on today, because you have found yourself like this blind man in some situations where you couldn't see beyond the darkened eyelids of your personal plights. And believing that things just were what they were and that they would never change. You found yourself wondering if God still cared about you. You found yourself failing in your faith. You found yourself asking, has God already passed me by? But I've been commissioned on the day to tell just a few of you that God sees you right where you are. And because God sees you, he can still save you. And is there anybody in this place that's thankful that we are still in the scope of God's salvation? Look to your neighbor, tell him if God sees you, he can still save you. However, my brothers and sisters, what happens to so many of us who claim to be Christ-like in this world is that we do not seem to value some in our society. And we turn a blind eye to their faces. We pass by the homeless with blind eyes. We pass by prostitution in our streets with blind eyes. We pass by the drug dealers on the corners with blind eyes. Pass by the drug addicts in our communities with blind eyes. Pass by the mentally ill with blind eyes. Pass by the returning citizens from our penal systems with blind eyes, and we call ourselves Christians. Passing by the least of these, we're living at the fringes of our society with blind eyes. But I'm thankful that God sees us where we are, and that he does not allow our shape and the shape of our situations to determine the scale of his salvation. I'll say it again, you might need this one. God doesn't allow the shape of our situations to determine how grand he's going to give us his salvation. My brothers and sisters, Jesus saw the blind man. And because his disciples were steeped in traditional Jewish thought, which conjectured that illness was in some way connected to sin, they asked Jesus some questions that made sense in their tradition. They said, Jesus, who sinned? Was it the man or his mama and daddy? I can imagine they were baffled Jewish law sometimes insinuates that there is a causal and effect relationship between sin and our outcomes in life. But to their surprise, Jesus responded to them, neither. Neither. I think I need to preach right there for a moment, because some of us have equated some of the outcomes in our lives and beat ourselves up and beat up other people for the things that they have done, the things that they had no control over. I know I'm telling the truth. God is telling them neither. Was it the parents or him that put him in this situation? But he was placed in this situation so that God could demonstrate his power in his life. Stay with me, church. I'm not going to be long today. And this confused them, because their conceptions of sin was rooted in this concept of theodicy. Why do bad things happen to good people? But I suggest that Jesus was trying to push them beyond the boundaries of their spiritual sights, which was pointing to the fact that this blindness wasn't about a physical impediment, but rather a revelatory importance. This blindness wasn't about this man's physical impairment, but rather the importance of the revelation that would come from his situation. That's why Jesus says, while it is day, we have to work for the one who sent me. Because when night comes, no man can work. That's why Jesus says, while he's in the world, I am the light of the world. And may I suggest to someone this morning that there is a metaphorical significance of this blind man being in the text that lets us know that in the midst of our spiritual darkness, that Jesus is still the light that was spoken into being so that one day we all might be able to see. And I'm just proposing that the blind situations of our lives are only setups for Jesus to show up and show out. But if we look closely at the text, church, Jesus says in the 4th verse, we must do the work of the one who sent me. This is argued, Brother Art, you know that. But the text says we. My brothers and sisters, for us who align ourselves with a Christ-like identity, then we have a responsibility to be active in the work of being the light that acts in the darkness of people's lives. We must be active in bringing about a new day for those who are stuck in the night times of their lives. That's why the songwriter said, this little light of mine, this little light of mine, I'm going to let it shine. For when we are active in the work of Christ, then we are not complicit in dimming the light of the world. My brothers and sisters, Jesus saw a blind man. And if we read the text a little more with clarity, then we will notice that the blind man does not converse with Jesus or ask for healing. It's in the text. I'm not going to make it up, I promise. He doesn't ask him for healing. Now, the text tells us that this man was a beggar. Begged all his life. This one time in the text, there is no instance of him asking or begging, better yet, even talking to Jesus. But I'm just thankful, Reverend Brown, that we have a Savior that will make a move towards us, even when we won't make a move towards him. I'll say it again, hold up. Let me slow it down. I'm thankful that we serve a God that sees us right where we are and will make a move towards us even when we won't decide to make a move towards him. And I just need a few testifying saints that can speak to the fact that God made a move towards them even when they wasn't looking to see God's face. But what happens, my brothers and sisters, is that some of us don't make a move because we don't realize that we are the ones that are blind. Some of us don't make a move because we don't realize that we are the ones that are blinded, in need of a muddy miracle. But before I get up out of here, I want to help you this morning to understand the intricacies of a muddy miracle. The first thing, my brothers and sisters, the first thing that we must realize, that you must realize when you've experienced a muddy miracle, is that your sightlessness had significance in your salvation. Your sightlessness had significance in your salvation. See, the text tells us that Jesus spit on the ground and made some mud out of saliva and put it on this man's eyes. I'll say it again. I don't think y'all are grasping this one. Jesus spit on the ground, made some mud out of the dirt on the ground, picked up his hands and placed it on this man's eyes. I don't see. Jesus spit. I'm the only one that's disgusted by this. I'm sorry. Jesus spit on the ground, made some mud on the ground, and placed it on this man's eyes. And may I suggest to you that if this man could have saw what Jesus was doing to heal him, he might not have been healed. If he knew beforehand the details of this process that he would have had to go through for God to show up in his life, he might not have went through with it. If he knew that the mud that was placed on his eyes was made with the spit, even Jesus' spit, and he may have just stayed in the state he was already in. And I don't know who I'm preaching to on this morning, but I just need about 2 or 3 people in here today that can attest to the fact that if they knew what God had to give them and knew what God was giving them to go through, then they would not have gone through with the things that God was trying to deliver them from. If they knew, they would have had what they had to go through to display God's power in their lives, then they might not have been up to the task. And I'm thankful that the very impediment that the enemy wanted me to believe was a problem was only a pedestal for God to show his power in my life. Is there anybody in this church today that's thankful that God made my blindness have purpose so that I can believe in him and give him all the praise? Oh, for if I knew about the spittle of pain that I would feel, if I knew about the spittle of trouble that I would got myself in, if I knew about the spittle of debt that I would have found myself in the hole in, if I knew about the spittle of failures that I would have fallen to, if I knew about the spittle of loss that I would have had to suffer, if I knew that God would have spit on the ground, then I might not have chosen to go in the direction that God was pointing me to so that his power could be revealed. I'm just thankful, church, that God used my blindness to keep me from blocking me from myself. I'm thankful, church, that God used our blindness from blocking us from the breakthrough that he was trying to give us. Can I give you the next point? I'm not going to be long. Because the next thing that you must understand about muddy miracles is that you are responsible for being active in your own restoration. Jesus put the mud on the man's eyes, church. Then he told him to go to the waters in the pool of Siloam. The pool that Jesus sent the man to was supposed to be representative of the healing that Jesus was supposed to bring into the world. However, we see that Jesus made this man active in his own healing. Hence, we must understand on today that when God is working in our lives, he is going to make a move, but it's required of you to have faith and to make a move as well. I'll say it again, slow it down, that God is going to make his move, but it's required of you to step out on faith and make a move towards restoration as well. And I came by here today to preach to somebody that God will come and help you in the midst of your situation, but you have to be willing to help yourself. The man had a decision whether he would sit in the mud and sit down on the ground with mud on his eyes, sit down in a miry situation, or take up the onus and help himself be healed. And somebody in here needed to be encouraged that God will activate your healing, but you will have to be willing to make yourself whole. See, what happens so many times is that we ask God to move in our situations, church, but we don't recognize that there's another part to the process. See, God can bring you out of debt, but you have to stop spending frivolously. God can get you that interview, but you have to be prepared. See, God can break some bad habits, but you have to know your limitations. God can raise your grades, but you still got to study. See, God can heal your body, but you got to eat right and listen to what the physician is telling you to do. God can make you a better Christian, but you've got to seek his face. God can turn your blindness into sight, but you got to walk to the waters, even with the mud on your eyes, because you will realize that the man that's giving you the direction can do what he says he does, but you got to have faith and help yourself. Watch the text, church, watch the text. The man got up and walked, but he didn't know what was about to happen. The man got up and walked, but it was his faith that got him up, that he could be made whole. His faith affirmed the healing that was about to happen. I don't know who I'm preaching to on this morning, Deacon Nobles, but I want you to know that God can help you if you have the faith that his help will help you to help yourself. I'll say it again, you may have missed it. God can help you. God will help you. But you're going to have the faith that God's help will help you help yourself. Can I preach it how God gave it? My last point, here we go. When you've been through a mighty miracle, you know that your transformation may not be trusted, but your testimony is your triumph. When you've been through a mighty miracle, you know that your transformation may not be trusted, but your testimony is your triumph. When the man came back from the pool, everybody that knew him questioned whether he was the same man that was begging all of their lives. When the man came back from the pool, everybody was questioning, is this the same man? I used to sit on the street and beg blind. Some were convinced it was him, and others wasn't sure. But isn't that how it is on this Christian journey, my brothers and sisters? Where God has turned our lives completely around. and gave us a new walk and gave us a new talk and completed a transformation in our lives. And the very people that saw you in your broken state are the same ones that are prepared not to believe that you had been made whole. I'll preach to myself on this Sunday morning. Don't worry about it. The very same people that saw you when you were down, saw you when you were broken, saw you when you were blind, when God transformed you, when God made a change in your life, when God made his move, they didn't want to believe it would happen. Hold on, Kwame, we'll get there. But because this happens, church, because some people get so comfortable with seeing you in the state that you are in, that the very boxes they placed you in, they would never believe you can get up out of them. I just need about 2 or 3 saints in here who knows that God has made them some jack in the box and brought them out of their situation, and that they can testify that they've been made whole, and that nobody can take that away from them. When you were blind in alcoholism, they never believed you'd get sober. When you were blind in the struggles of schoolwork, they never believed you'd become successful. When you were blind in depression, they never believed you would be happy. When you were blind in addiction, they never believed you'd be made clean. When you were blind in promiscuity, they never believed you find fidelity. But I'm just thankful that I'm a living testimony, church, that God still sees blindness and seeing the business of turning my blindness into the sight. God still sees my blindness, and he's in the business of breaking down the barriers that people have used to bound you. Is there anybody in this place that's thankful that we've got a God who's able to break down those chains, break down those barriers that people have placed around them? And it's moments like these when you're on your job and people question, what has God done for you? When your family doubt that God has delivered you. When your friends tell you you ain't changed. When church folks look at you and ask you, why are you back here? Look at them boldly. Tell them, I once was lost. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind. I was blind. I was blind. Is there anybody that was blind, but now they see? I'm thankful that God has constructed a new character in me and has given me a new identity through some muddy miracles. Oh man, church, I'm sorry. The text ain't done. I'm sorry. I know. It says, when they asked him, how did your blind situation become your bold salvation? They asked him, how did your blind situation become your bold salvation? This answer is simple, church. He said, I met a man named Jesus. I met a man named Jesus who had all power in his hands, who had joy in his hands, who had love in his hands. I met a man named Jesus who had faith in his hands, who had hope in his hands, who had healing in his hands. I met a man named Jesus when I couldn't see myself. I met a man named Jesus who looked beyond my blindness and saw what I could become. Tell them I met a man named Jesus who transformed me and gave me a temptation, gave me a testimony that even in the midst of my temptations, even in the midst of my trials, even in the midst of my tribulations, that trouble don't last always. I met a man named Jesus. Who changed my life so that through me others might be changed. Tell them I met a man named Jesus. I met a man named Jesus who made me a mighty miracle. Oh, I'm sorry. I got to push this text. I'm sorry. Can I drive the text a little further? I'm only going to need a couple minutes. Here we go. Because you truly are a mighty miracle. Because you know that Jesus used your dirt. And he used the dirt that you were in to deliver you. That's it. Jesus used the dirt that you were in to deliver you. See, if we look at the text, Jesus spit on the ground, church, and he gets down in the dirt with the man. Aren't we thankful that God gets down there with us? Got down in the dirt with the man. And the interesting thing about spit, my brothers and sisters, is that it aids in preventing infection in your mouth. So it somewhat operates as a cleansing fluid. So if we read eisegetically into the text, then we can read that Jesus spit into the dirt. But he was actively sanitizing the dirt that the man was sitting in. When Jesus spit into the dirt, he was actually making the very dirt he was in clean. Thus, the dirt that the man was wallowing in, the dirt that the man was all in all his life, Jesus turned it into a muddy ointment to heal him. Stay with me. And I'm thankful that God can take the dirt of our problems. God can take the dirt of our past. God can take the dirt of our mistakes. God can take the dirt of our secrets. God can take the dirt of our faults. God can take the dirt of our lives and use them as balm to bring about healing. Is there anybody in this place that Jesus used the dirt? Jesus used our dirt. Jesus used our dirt to deliver you. Hold on. I still see some glassy eyes, church. Hold on. Let me do it like this. Mother's Day is coming up. So I got two brothers. If you don't know them, Winston and Weldon. Two brothers. We kind of like stair steps. I'm 26, Winston's 23, turns when Weldon's 21. So we're grown now. So we have more of a responsibility and no longer an excuse not to buy mom and daddy stuff for Mother's and Father's Day. So I called Winston and Weldon and I was like, hey brothers, we're going to pool our money together, the little bit that we have. and we're going to get mama a spa treatment for Mother's Day. Miss Jerry, I'm putting in a plug for you right now. I said, we're going to get mama a spa treatment for Mother's Day. My brother's like, all right, that's cool. Will, you going to pay for most of it? I was like, But interesting, I was looking up places, and I wanted to get my mama the works, the full treatment. Get a manicure, get her a pedicure, get her a massage, and get her a facial. But what I realized about the facials, Pastor, is that they use this mud to put on your face to cleanse your face. Mother's Day for mama, we're gonna get her a spa treatment. We're gonna get mama a pedicure. We're gonna get mama a manicure. We're even gonna get mama a massage. And we're gonna get her a facial. And doing this facial, they're going to use some mud. Mix it all up. Rub it over her face. And during this time, she can't see. And then they're going to tell my mama to go wash it off. And then come back and look at yourself. One more time for you that missed it. Mother's Day. Willie Winston and Weldon. This is on tape, so I got to do it. Willie Winston and Weldon going to get mama a spa treatment. She's going to get a manicure. She's going to get a pedicure. She's going to get a massage. And she's going to get a facial. They're going to put some mud over her face. She won't be able to see for a moment's time. They're going to say, Miss Bodrick, go to the waters. Wash it off your face. And come back and see if you are made whole. See if you look different. And I'm just thankful I got a few spa treatment saints in here today. That God is taking them to the spa. Put some mud on their face. Rub it on their face and use their blindness. So when they couldn't see, that they'll be going in faith, trusting that they'll be made clean. But they're going to walk over to the water, wash it off their face, and when they come back, they can be a living testimony. That amazing grace, amazing grace, amazing grace. How sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost. I once was lost. I was blind, but now I see. It was grace that brought me safe thus far. And grace shall lead me on. But I'm just thankful that God put me through a spa treatment and turned my blindness into sight, so that when I came back into the fellowship, everybody that doubted me couldn't doubt me no more. Everybody that didn't believe in me couldn't believe in me no more. Everybody that was holding me down couldn't hold me back no more, because I knew a man named Jesus. I knew a man named Jesus who had all power to make me a muddy mirror.